Yo, what's going on, everybody? It is Straight Outta Boston here, and today I'm back for episode number 1 of a brand new series I'm bringing to my channel. With the release of the OSFM 3.0 rosters Friday evening, I decided to start up a new Road to the Show series, something that I had been planning on doing after the post-trade deadline rosters came out. So OSFM released the third official version of their rosters this year, a very detailed version, lots of new players, of course, all of the updated roster transactions after the trade deadline. So the character for my Road to the Show is going to be Jason Schaffer, a shortstop. I knew I wanted to do a shortstop this time around. The last position player I did was a third baseman, and this is going to be kind of a similar player profile. This is actually from an old OOTP that I played on last year's game. This is imported into this year's game, but this is a save I played on OOTP 17 a lot. I got a lot of usage out of this when I was overseas, actually. I think I was up to like 2030, 2035 maybe, just playing last summer and in the fall. And then when I was overseas and I was traveling a lot, and I had a lot of long bus rides, long plane rides and stuff, I was playing this quite a bit. And I got pretty far, and this guy, Jason Schaffer, helped me win my first 3 World Series. So it actually took me about 20 years to win a World Series with this Phillies team, up until the 2030s. But then I strung off, I think, like 8 or 9 championships over the next 20, 25 years, and got to 2054. But Jason Schaffer, this guy, my shortstop, he was the shortstop for those first 3 World Series teams. He was actually, his peak came well before I was a World Series champion. But you can see right there, he was eventually inducted into the Hall of Fame. And a good batter. I'll talk a little bit about him as a player in a sec, but this is something I wanted to highlight. He is also a very good fielder. Look at his zone rating in some of his prime years with us. This is kind of the only advanced defensive statistic they have in OTP. This zone rating, which I think is sort of supposed to be like UZR. But you can sort of tell he was a good defensive player because his offensive numbers were never spectacular outside of a couple years, but he still was always kind of a 5 or 6 win player, so you knew he was a good base runner, a good fielder, and that was showing up in the WAR metric, which is supposed to measure him as an all-around player. And, he measured quite well. He was over 60 career WAR, was inducted into the Hall of Fame, like I said. He never won an MVP, only a 6-time All-Star, so maybe a little bit underrated in his career, but the metrics, if you look at some of the advanced numbers, the underlying numbers, you see that he was a good defender, and that combined with the pretty solid offensive numbers. I mean, he was never a spectacular hitter, like I said, outside of a few seasons. I think he had like an 8.7 win season and then maybe a 9 win season in his first couple of years with Philadelphia after I traded for him from Seattle. But like I said, very good player, probably underrated, never won an MVP or anything, but 6-time All-Star, 3-time champion. And him as a player, he was, not really, he was a high strikeout and a high walk guy. He was kind of a 3 true outcomes sort of player. Didn't have like absolutely massive power, but he had 2 40 home run seasons. He led the league in home runs one year with 47. That was the 8.7 win season that he had, but 415 career home runs and sort of settled into a high 20s, low 30s kind of home run hitter. So pretty good, but not spectacular, not great, not best in the league by any means. But he did lead the league in strikeouts, I think 6 or 7 years, and he led the league in walks once or twice. So that was kind of the player he was. I think his career slash was somewhere around like 250, 340, and 440 or something. And he also had a little bit of speed too. He had over 200 career steals. I think there were maybe 4 or 5 seasons where he was in the low 20s in steals totals. He was more often than not kind of in the high teens. So a little bit of speed, not huge speed, but a good athlete for a shortstop, still a good hitter. And he wore that number 73, which was retired by Philadelphia. That's not the number I'm going to use for him the whole time in this series, but as a prospect, or at least for this prospect showcase, I decided to go with the number 73. And for this initial prospect showcase, I kind of wanted to, well, I didn't initially decide to do this, but as I was going through this first showcase, and you see here I was really struggling with some of the new defensive controls. I will eventually switch that to the button accuracy that I use in franchise mode, which I much prefer to the Showtime control. But even during this scouting, this prospect showcase, despite not doing too bad on scout day, you see a couple scouts coming up to me and sort of singing my praises, I decided to only play the one showcase game and really didn't have any intention of signing right out of high school. So Schaffer didn't debut until he was 23 years old. He was drafted in the 28th round out of high school, and I don't know if he was initially planning on going to college or not, but he signed right away, which was kind of surprising because he did turn into such a good player. And that's why I assumed that he was actually a highly rated prospect, but he was just assumed to be going to college. And he signed with the Rangers out of high school, but did not debut till he was 23. He sort of took that long path through the minor leagues. But for this series, I kind of want to skip that. I want to sort of fast track myself, but also set it up realistically to fast track myself. So I decided to pretty much just tell the Arizona Diamondbacks owner off here after they drafted me with the 7th pick in the 4th round of the first-year player draft, and did not get a contract offer, so I go back to a one-year junior college, come back to the prospect showcase 1 year later. But this year I was like, I didn't even do the showcase day. I skipped all of that. I said, I definitely don't want to be drafted this year. I'm going to go to a 3-year school, get my education, go play college baseball, try to advance my skill set as much as I can, and hopefully fast track myself once I do get drafted after my senior year. And so here you can see another 4th round pick, this time even later, but I did get drafted to a more interesting team, the New York Mets, although they do have Ahmed Rosario kind of blocking me in their system. But still, of course, you can always move a shortstop to another position. Shortstop is probably the hardest defensive position to play in baseball, that or center field. But I think shortstop is probably thought of as a little bit more difficult to play. So you can always move someone off of shortstop. It's more difficult to find a shortstop, which is why it's never a bad thing to have many shortstop prospects. But anyway, after this showcase, so I declined an offer from the Mets. I decided to go to 3-year college, and then I decided to do this Road to the Show Game Breaker thing, since I don't play Diamond Dynasty or any of those game modes, really. I only play Franchise and Road to the Show. So I had 19,000 stubs just saved up, and I decided to convert 11,000 of those into training points and get my overall up, so that way, hopefully, I wanted to give myself a good chance of getting drafted as high as possible, and I knew overall ratings were going to help, and also just those overall ratings helping me play well in the showcase. So you can see I got my overall up to a 73 overall with those 11,000 trading points, and I spread them out pretty equally. I got my speed up into the 60s, I think. I got my fielding up into the mid-60s, my contacts in the 50s, powers in the 60s, vision is in the 50s, discipline is in the 60s, I think. So I want to model the Road to the Show version of Jason Schaffer after the OOTP version as much as I can. So, you know, I want to be not the highest contact guy in the world, definitely more power than contact, and also take my walks and, you know, play good defense, field my position ably, which Schaffer certainly did in his time as a shortstop for both the Mariners and the Phillies. So anyway, finally, after my 4 years in college, I've decided to start taking these prospect showcase games seriously, and you can see I'm playing for the Central team. Schaffer was from Annandale, Minnesota, and I'm screwing up my first fielding opportunity immediately, so that was pretty much the last time I tried using the Showtime fielding. Right after that, I switched it to the button accuracy mechanics, and from there, didn't have a single problem. You can see fielding my position very well. So, like I said, I did want to try to get drafted highly. I really wanted to go in the first round and, you know, if possible, go highly in the first round. So I'm actually playing these showcase games on All-Star difficulty as opposed to Hall of Fame. I typically play on Hall of Fame in this game. That's what I play my franchise series on. That's what I'm going to play this series on after I get drafted. But just for the sake of the series, and, you know, it doesn't really like harm anyone to, you know, try to mash in these games, and just even if it's maybe a little bit too low of a difficulty for me, as you can see here, you know, I'm having my way with these guys. I'm hitting for extra bases. That's a triple, almost an inside the park home run, as it was kind of misplayed by the center fielder. Could have been an inside the park home run if I didn't sort of hesitate out of the box there. But anyway, got another bases loaded opportunity here. I'm hitting it well to the left center field wall, and that's going to be another extra base hit. Actually, it's going to be a grand slam as I get that one over the fence. So you see, I'm really not having a problem on All-Star difficulty, and Hall of Fame will be, like I said, the difficulty that I play on when I actually get the series going, pretty much from the next episode onward. And actually, once I do get drafted, I play the first couple games as a professional in this episode, and even before those games, I switched it back to Hall of Fame because, you know, that is going to be the challenging difficulty for me, and I want to, you know, have realistic stats, realistic numbers, and have it be, you know, kind of a challenge, kind of like it was with the Jim Lowry series. Remember, it took me a few years as a pro to get settled with Lowry before I kind of settled into being a sort of Cy Young contender, an ace for my team. And, you know, it might be the same sort of thing for Schaffer, as it kind of is for most young players in the professional baseball world. But anyway, after my first showcase game, pretty well, earned a walk in the second inning, and then 2 hits, 2 extra base hits, a triple and a home run later in the game. So my numbers are looking pretty impressive at this moment, but I still decided to come back for game number 2, try to duplicate my performance, and wasn't really quite able to. I got it out in my first at-bat. This is my second AB, and I'm actually able to get a little 2-strike contact single into left field that drives home a run. So we do get on the board first, 1-0 Central team, and then later I'm on the base path. That's going to get down to the left field for a base knock. I'm coming home, and I will score easily there, as that throw was cut off and not really a good throw from the left fielder to the third baseman. So I score a run, and then later in the game, this is my second single of the day, so I do pick up a pair of hits. This is going to drive home another run. I think they would not dock me an RBI there because it was misplayed, and yeah, I do get the RBI, but I was picked off at first base right there. So you can see 2 hits, drove in a couple runs. Not quite as impressive in game number 2, but either way, I think it was enough to surely get drafted in the first round. So my advisor getting me ready. I am ready to go, and we're going to fast forward to my pick, and I unfortunately don't get picked in the first round. I was pretty surprised to see this. I do fall to the second round, and that's really unfortunate because I kind of got picked in the worst possible spot, that early second round, where even though you fell in the draft, you're not going to a good team. You're sort of back at the bad teams at the top of the draft board, and I do get picked by the A's, which was a little unfortunate because more than anything, I just wanted to go to a good team, an interesting team. Like the Mets would have been a kind of a fun team to go to because they do have a lot of young talent, and it's a big baseball market. Oakland, a team just even when they're good, doesn't really seem to matter in the big scheme of the baseball world. They have a crappy stadium, and it's not a big baseball market, but I'm sure if they were World Series champions, that would change, and hopefully we can bring that to this organization, or maybe we'll get traded, who knows. There you can see me turning it back to Hall of Fame. But either way, we're just going to take it and run with it. Playing with the Oakland A's, it is actually a team that I do like. I like their color scheme, and even though I know the stadium is utter garbage in real life, it does look nice, I think, in video game form, and the fact that there's all that foul territory is kind of interesting, a little bit different, kind of quirky, which I am sort of into in professional baseball. But there were a few more interesting teams picking in the top 12 there in that second round. There was Colorado, Tampa Bay, and Milwaukee, all in like the 6 or the 5 or 6 through 12 spots in that second round, which I think all would have been more interesting teams to get drafted by, although I've already played for Tampa Bay in a series before with Saul Goodman, so maybe that wouldn't have been so interesting. Either way, like I said, we are just going to run with it. I'm rocking 33 here with my new team making my professional debut. I already got my first hit. This is going to be my second hit as I go the other way with this pitch into right center field. And you can see with my advanced ratings, I'm probably a little bit too good for AA right now. I think at the very least I should be playing at AAA, and potentially could be playing myself into a roster spot at the end of this season. I didn't really show it off in this video, but I did take a look at their shortstop depth with the A's, and I think it is Marcus Semien as the #1 guy at a 77 overall. And then they do have Franklin Barreto and Jorge Mateo as highly rated shortstop prospects. In fact, they're both top 50 prospects, so you could see Schaffer moved off of the shortstop position in the future, possibly to third base, possibly to second base. But for now, playing the shortstop position and possibly becoming the starter at shortstop for the A's by the end of the year, I think, just because they really don't have anyone, solidified there in that role at the big league level. And there's certainly an opportunity for Schaffer, and like I said, his ratings are pretty advanced. He's certainly showing that early on in AA. That was after game number 2. Didn't quite play as well in game number 2 as I did in game number 1, but still certainly making a name for myself already with this Midland Rockhounds team. I've already been moved up to the 3rd spot in the order. Here I'm facing a knuckleballer, Eddie Gamboa, for this Tulsa Drillers team, which I think is the Dodgers farm system, because I'm pretty sure Walker Buehler started the first game of this series. But anyway, that was pretty much my only highlight from the 3rd game. I think that was my only hit. As you can see, we end up losing that game. I also reached on a fielder's choice later in the evening, but pretty unimpressive 1-for-4 stat line there. So gonna have more highlights in episode number 2. Obviously, hopefully we get called up in the near future. Like I said, I think I'm going to be dominating AA until I do get called up. But until then, thanks for watching, guys. Hope you did enjoy. As always, I'm out. Peace.